Burton, my man from PropStream, how are you, brother?
Brother, I'm doing very well. I can't complain after what we all went through this last year. I'm just happy to be here with you, man. So thank you for
Man,
having me.
I hear that. That is the truth, man. That is the truth. Well, it is really good to connect with you, Burton. It's been a while since we got together and had a talk, but knowing your numbers in real estate is so incredibly important, right? It's where it all starts. It's where it all ends. If you screw up your numbers, you're going to be in territory of losing money on your deals, and that's never what we want to do, right?
I agree.
I mean, I've flipped probably 700 houses at this point. I think I've lost money on 2, and the 2 that I lost money on, I didn't really know my numbers. Let's be honest, right? So what happened was I went over budget on my rehab, and I didn't buy it good enough, and those 2 things combined put me into losing territory. So 698 wins, not complaining. But the 2 that I lost on, that's what I kind of want to talk about real quick here. I didn't know my numbers, man. As an investor, we're always wanting to buy properties at discounts, right? That's the best way to ensure that you're going to make a profit. And really, you can even flip the script on it and you can say that it's the best way to ensure that you don't lose any money. Like at this point, whenever I'm going in and buying a house, I kind of think, hey, at what number can I screw up and maybe even make 2 or 3 mistakes and still get my money back? I'm not really looking on the upside anymore. I'm kind of looking on like, is it a good deal? And if I can get it lower than that number, hell yeah, even better, right? But knowing your numbers is so incredibly important. It all starts with comping properties. When somebody reaches out to you as an investor, you're hopefully doing marketing and telling the whole world that you're looking to buy houses. And then somebody calls you and connects with you and they say, hey, I do have this property. Here's the address. What do you do next, right? Well, you have to figure out what the ARV on that property is. You got to figure out what it will be worth when the repairs are done. And then you put a multiplier in effect, right? Maybe a 0.8 or a 0.7. And that's where you're basically building in your discount. Next, you subtract out your repairs. And that gives you an MAO, basically, a maximum allowable offer. That's the formula all investors use. I don't care if you're in United States or if you're in Africa, right? That's the formula. You build in your profit margin and your discount in the beginning, then take the repairs out. That gives you a number. Now, that number that it gives you doesn't mean that that's the number you should offer. That's telling you that's the highest you can go, right? Before you're getting into that danger territory. Not knowing your numbers puts you in danger territory from the beginning, because if you start with the wrong number to begin with, the whole formula is wrong, right? So that's really what I want to focus on here today, is about knowing your numbers, guys. When somebody calls you and they have a property, what do you do? And I got Burton graciously to come on here for 30 minutes with me and do a quick demo and show people what they can do to pull the information on properties, how they can do it efficiently, how they can do it fast, and basically start with the right number in mind. So Burton, again, thank you so much for coming on with me today. Much appreciated. Let's get a demo going. You ready?
Let's have at it. Yeah, let's go ahead and show them how to run comps, man. I think this is a great bring up right there. And I like how you even use like the 0.7, 0.8 rule there. But yeah, I always tell people, in order to apply that, you need to know what the whole number is. And so I appreciate you bringing that up. So let's go ahead and do it.
Awesome. Let's jump on in, man. So we're going to be using PropStream today. And Burton is with PropStream. The folks at PropStream are amazing. Love this software. Been using it for probably going on 2, maybe 3 years. I'd say probably closer to 3 at this point. Love it. They have a mobile app, and not only can you use it to run comps and know your numbers, but you can also use it for marketing to pull your lists. So Burton, I'm going to shut up and give you the floor, brother. Let us know, let's say somebody calls you in, Northern Virginia.
Okay,
and they have a property up in Northern Virginia that they're looking to sell, right? And I know a lot of people these days are virtual too, so it might not even matter where you're located at. This could essentially be a lead that comes in to your system, right?
Absolutely. Or it could be someone like a neighbor in your neighborhood who just happens to have a property in Virginia as well, right? Like that could happen. You don't necessarily have to market in Virginia to find a Virginia property. You could have a neighbor who just happens to have a home out there, right? So what I like about PropStream, what we've done is we've bought all the data for most of the data providers out there and pieced it together. So a Southern California kid like me, let's say, gets a phone call. It's someone in Northern Virginia that wants to sell their property, let's say Richmond. I can zoom in onto that market and pull up that property. Now, two ways to pull up that property. I can either continue to keep zooming in on that market. As I keep zooming in and keep zooming in, you're going to see that we're going to finally show you the parcels of every one of these properties in the neighborhood. So as you keep zooming in, you can find that property, click on it, and what we're going to give you is more than just the comp information. We're going to give you all of the properties information. So what we're seeing here is our bread and butter. This is what we're known for. This page right here pieces the property data, the financial data, and the situational data together. So here's what I'm showing you right now. At a click of a button, I've now pulled up the property details, and I can see the owner's name. I can see the property characteristics. I can see the land and location information. And this is important because you're probably going to start asking questions about the property being nearly 40 years old, having 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. Maybe they want to move out to a 3-2, and that's why they've called you. Owning the property, maybe they want to move somewhere else, or maybe having a mortgage is the reason that they want to sell. Now, as you're going over the property details to identify what that motivation is, eventually you're going to need to make an offer, and we have provided you our comparables and nearby section area.
I love this area. This is the best.
This area, don't let it complicate you or seem overwhelming. It's really the first 4 boxes that are going to be your best friends. Mm-hmm. The other boxes are just your nearby listings, like showing you other pre-foreclosures and etc. But let me break down these 4 boxes for you. Comparables is just going to show you properties that sold and were recorded at the county's office, otherwise known as public records. You will also have the ability to tap into the MLS records that we've collected on your behalf. So these are properties that sold through an agent, or you can put them side by side. You can see county records and MLS records back to back, and essentially dotting your I's and crossing your T's at that point. Now, because we like to have fun with our data, we've created what we call a flip comps box. Now, I love this box a lot because it tells a lot. Here's what this box is going to show you. It's going to show you an address that was flipped. It's going to show you the property characteristics of that address. It's going to show you the purchase date and how much the investor paid at the time of the purchase.
Is this new?
This is new. Mm-hmm.
This is cool.
And then it shows you the flip date, and it shows you the flip amount. So here you can see that on August 6, 2019, an investor bought a property for $30,000. And about a year later, less than a year actually, on June 19, 2020, they sold that property for $280,000. Their gross profit was $255,000. So what I personally like about this list is it identifies flippers. It identifies the property characteristics.
And this is just in a 1 mile radius right here.
Right. And you can extend that to 2, 3, so you can see all the properties flip. But it shows you the property characteristics, the buyer's buying power, and it shows you the ARV, essentially the after result. And if it was sold on the MLS, we also get the photos, so you can see potentially what that end result was of that property. So this applies to both of those properties. So you can see.
Yeah.
So what's cool, again, it tells me, hey, look, for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, that buyer was willing to pay up to $68,000 for it. So don't put a contract higher than $68,000 if you have a 2-2 with same characteristics. But that 2-2, once it's fixed up, it can turn into $189,000. And the rehab is showing you what it takes to turn it to $189,000 right then and there.
Wow, that's awesome, man. I didn't even know that was part of it. I've always just gone in and used the comps. Yeah. This is why I like doing these demos, because not only are we helping people learn how to use this system, but man, this is great for me. I'm learning this stuff too. This is amazing.
And I like this too, because like now I can just click on a property, go into the comps and say, hey, are there any flippers in a 2-mile radius?
Right in that. Yeah.
Like before I even talk to the owner, like are flippers even in this area? And yeah, we have tons of flippers buying low. You can see no one's spending more than $85K. So just don't lock anything higher than that, especially if it's like a 2-1 or something, just like your property. So everybody's buying under 100K, it looks like. And then the ARV, it looks like we're in the 100 plus area, 130, 100 plus. So there's a lot of powerful information here. But that's what the flip comps is showing you. And feel free to look at the people that flipped in the last year, last 2 years, last 3 years. You can say, I just want to see the 2 bedrooms that were flipped, the 1 bathrooms that were flipped. I want to see the people that flipped in 12 months max, right? So you can do up to a 2-year span. So feel free to take full advantage of that. So here are all the flips that happened in a 2-mile radius that were 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and it flipped in less than a year. And here you go, 2.2,
Wow.
68,000, sold for 189. So eerily
Nice.
similar to your subject property. So if they were willing to buy it for 68, you might want to consider maybe just going a little bit lower, or maybe you can even go higher because you do have a little bit more of square footage than that person. So just an FYI there. But that's our flip comps.
Flip comps is cool. I've always used comparables. I didn't even know that was. There's so much going on here, and it's great though because it's all good information. I'm never overwhelmed by it by any means, but like there's a lot going on, and I didn't even know to click on those boxes. I thought that was more of just like data.
FYI, right?
Exactly. FYI data.
FYI,
right.
Here's what's happening. But that's really amazing. That's really what it is. It's FYI. There's flippers in your market, and this is the address that was flipped. That's the characteristics. That's how much they were willing to buy at the time of the purchase, and that's what they ended up flipping it for. So it's a lot of information. It's the photos, it's the characteristics, it's the buyer's buying power, and it's the ARV once they were done with it. So this can give you a lot of information. Now,
nice.
Neighbors is just your neighboring records next to the subject property.
So this is the closest house is number 1.
Correct.
The second closest house is number 2. So this is, I mean, it's just the immediate proximity.
Absolutely. And this could be very, very important. Like one of our newest categories that we have is our pre-probate data. And that shows a homeowner who's passed away. And there are times where we only have one homeowner on file and that homeowner passed away. So we have investors that call in and say, Burton, I'm trying to pull this pre-probate list and there's a homeowner on there and that homeowner passed away. How can I get a hold of the person? I'm like, well, clearly they've gone away, but this could help. Like what you can do here is why don't you just skip trace the next door neighbors, right? Like you can actually add your neighbors to a list.
Oh man, that's cool. So just add in like the 4 or 5 or even 10 closest people. It could even be 1 or 2, right? Doesn't matter. Just
put
get
them on
the
a
closest
list.
People, contact them and say, hey, I'm trying to reach this person or any known heir or contact or cousin or anything, right?
Exactly.
Love
and that's
it.
why neighbors could be powerful. Or if you're in a gated community, a cul-de-sac, unique architecture, this could help you out as well. And then cash buyers, just more information, letting you know, hey, in this area, there were up to 150 cash buyers. If you want to just see the cash buyers at the beginning of this year, you want to see buyers buying a certain characteristics. You want to see buyers that are buying and occupying or buying and not occupying. If you want to see buyers buying either in cash or in, whatever that may be, these are the options for you. So I want a non-owner occupied buyer that bought a property this year, and I'd like to see residential and single family. And this could be important because now you're able to see what the buyers are willing to pay, right? And I have a good friend that says, look, as long as you know what buyers are willing to pay, you don't even need to have the ARV. Just make sure you don't lock it up more than what they're willing to pay. And I think that was a great advice to give somebody. So these are the comparables that you have access to.
The first 4 boxes are the main ones. I got 3 new tools in my belt. This is great.
Now let's talk about the traditional comping. So comping, our first box is the traditional box that everybody likes to use. And again, you get to decide whether you want county records, MLS records, or both. Now you might be in a state where you might be forced to just use one, like Texas, which is non-disclosure. They have to use. But when you are running comps, try not to overthink it. Like I have users that will literally spend hours trying to find the ARV of a property. And I literally ask them, like, what are you doing? Like, I'm trying to find that perfect value. And then I have to ask them, why? Why are you trying to find a perfect value? You're never going to buy it at that perfect value, right? You're always going to apply your discount. So here's my biggest advice when it comes to running comps. Comping is not about finding a perfect value. It's about being able to draw a line. And what I mean by that, it's to be able to tell Mr. Homeowner, hey, here are properties that are just like yours that sold for full price. I just drew a line. These properties that sold at full price sold for $200,000. Clearly, your house doesn't look like that. Your house is like over here. So comping is never about finding a perfect price. It's about showing the homeowner homes and the prices of those homes that they're not going to get, right? But they
Yeah,
have
that's
to be
exactly right.
very similar comps.
That's
So
exactly right. I love that. So here, real
here,
quick, Burton. So whenever somebody is doing comping, right, before we even talk about the tool here, let's just take a break for 1 second. And when we're talking about comping, right, knowing your numbers is so important. So comping just means you find comparable properties, folks. That's all it means. So if you have a property, a subject property, right, in order to find a value, you need to find properties that are very similar to that property, that are close to that property, and have sold very recently. That's how an appraiser does it. And that's basically who banks and lenders hire to determine a value, right? So we're basically trying to guess what it's going to appraise for after the work's been done. So that's the disconnect for most people. It's they're looking at a house and it needs 50 grand worth of work, right? Well, you don't look at the house in its current condition. You look at what it could be, and you do so by finding comparables. So the main things that are important with comparables are distance, right? Location. So we typically want your property distances to be a quarter mile. If you can't find something in a quarter mile, you can go out to a half a mile or a mile out in the country. But the closer, the better, right?
I agree with you there.
The closer, the better. And then also, you want to make sure that you're not comping a 2-bedroom house to a 5-bedroom house or a ranch house to a 3-story house. Guys, those are not the same property. So you want it to be as like as possible. So the same number of bedrooms, the same number of bathrooms, similar square foot. It's not going to have to be exactly 1,127 square feet, but you want to have a couple hundred feet on either side, but not 600 feet, right? 200 feet, 300 feet. The bigger the property, the more you can move those numbers. But a 600 square foot property doesn't comp well to 1,100 square foot property. It needs to be within a couple hundred square feet, right? And then last but not least, you need to pull comparable properties that have sold recently. If a property sold 14 years ago, that data is worthless to us. What's sold this month? What's sold in the last 6 months? What's sold in the last year? That's what matters. That's where you're going to find the best comps that are going to give you the best accurate, the best estimate of what that property is going to be done. And the cool part, I'm going to let you take over, Burton, is that the tool builds all that into you, builds all that into it right off the bat. So when you click comparables, boom, it starts you off with 1 year plus or minus square foot. That's within what, 200 feet probably?
Correct. Yeah, about 20%.
Give or take 20%, right? And then it's got a half a mile right there. Boom. So it's built it in.
And all of this can be adjusted. So I like how you said, you know what? Let's go 6 months. Because again, we went through this whole pandemic. People weren't buying, and maybe prices are much higher now in the last 6 months than they were last year. So although we default to a year, you can go beyond a year. You can go a year and a half or move it forward and say, you know what? I just want to see the sales from this year, January 1st till today. I mean, we have 6 months already. That's a lot of records. So why don't we stick with that time frame?
I mean, it's crazy. Now, we're halfway through this year.
Exactly, right? And as David mentioned, guys, comparables, it's in the term, right? Comping is finding like property. So if this property is 2 bedrooms with 1,100 square footage, and you can also see that here, this blue house is your subject property. So you can easily line it up right over here. But what I'm going to do is say, okay, well, if it's a 2-bedroom, then I want 2 bedrooms minimum. If it's 1 bathroom, then I want 1 bathroom minimum. Now, here's where you got to be careful. Because you're not putting anything in the max, what you're really saying is 2 or more. So if you scroll over here, you're going to see some 3 bedrooms. So you can actually manually deselect them or just punch in the number 2 in the max, and we'll get rid of all those 3 bedrooms and just show you the 2s only. Okay. That also applies with the bathrooms. As you can see, you have some 2.5s. If you don't need that, let's say you just need the 1, maybe 1.5. Maybe your buyer might want to put a half bathroom in there. You can do 1 and 1.5. Your built square sold statuses. This will let you control what type of listing status you're looking for. Traditionally, you want to stick with sold listings because you can have something active, but that doesn't mean it's going to sell for that price. So I would suggest sticking with sold. And last but not least, what public records are you looking for? Do you want cash transactions, which could be as is prices? Would you like properties that were given a 30-year mortgage, which is the one you should really choose? Because banks don't just put a 30-year mortgage on anything, right? Do you want to see if someone bought more than one property? Is half a mile good? Do you want to go to a quarter mile? Feel free to type in 0.25 if
I
you'd
love
like.
doing that, especially in highly dense areas where you pull a half-mile comps and you get 35 of them.
Exactly.
Too
Or
many,
like you
right?
said,
So
if
you want
you're
to
in
just
a
bring it in to narrow that down, right?
absolutely, and if you're in a neighborhood, let's say you have huge lot sizes, bigger than your California properties, then you might need to go out a mile, right? So
Sure.
every market is different. We're
Every
very
market's
aware that your market may not be as fast paced. So maybe 6 months is not enough. Maybe you do need to stick with the 1 year. So all of these filters can be heavily adjusted. The idea is we need to find properties that sold recently, a year or within the last 6 months, or the sooner the better, or the most recent the better, at a very close distance. Typically, miles the furthest you want to go, unless you're dealing with like a farm or something really large, or stick to a half mile is what we default you to. But once you get your comps on the right side after applying your filters, here's what the last thing you want to do. And Dave brought this up: apples to apples. If you're running comps on a residential single family property, please choose residential, not commercial, not vacant land. And if you're running comps on a single family property, make sure you're choosing single family.
That is so important right there, guys. Comping has to be like I said this earlier. You don't want to comp a ranch to a 4-family. It's not the same type of property. So those two things are very, very important here.
Absolutely.
The other things that you had talked about with the public records and the parcel, the bottom part, the sales, I didn't even know. I never even knew those were there. You know how sometimes you just look over things, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's really helpful. So the flip comps, the neighbors, the cash buyers, those 4 boxes are amazing. And then you have the comparables as well, which then allows you to break them down in terms of duration. You know, how long ago was it sold? Plus or minus 20% on the square footage. So keep it tight, which is great. You don't want to add 50%. It's too much. 20% is good. And then, of course, you can change the distance right there as well.
Absolutely.
This is one of my favorite features here, Burton. You can actually drop the little yellow man on the map to the front of the house. This is such a great tool that I feel like doesn't get the attention it deserves. This is so amazing. So now we're looking at this particular house, right? And you can even go full screen with this if you want, and you can drive the street. This tool right here saves me so much time, because oftentimes I don't just want to see the property. I want to see the entire street. And if I get in my car and drive over there, that's awesome. That's great. But this is a great way to do it from your house, from your laptop, from your cell phone, even to drive the street, because sometimes you'll have like a really good pocket. But other times, you know, you may have just a terrible street or a good street or whatever it may be. But last thing I want to do is, you know, be looking at a house that across the street there's 3 or 4 vacants. That's not going to stop me from buying that house, but it's going to change my offer completely, right? So very, very cool tool right there. Love that, Burton.
And the last thing I advise is, once you get your comps, after you've filtered correctly, it's all a matter of just asking why now, right? Like, why did 722 North 27th Street sell for 310 on November of last year? You know, the characteristics are eerily similar. It just has a half bathroom more. Square foot is a little bit bigger. Our lot size bigger, right? So this is essentially a good comp. And essentially, you're not going to find the perfect value, but you're going to use this value as that draw the line. Mr. Homeowner, there is a property that sold for 310. Here's the thing though, it's been fully rehabbed. It has a new bathroom, a new kitchen. The painting has been done, right? Because these homeowners are going to always want full price, but this is what they're not getting, right? So I've drawn that line. I've said, hey, here's a property that sold for 310. Clearly, you're not going to get that price. Here's another for 305. We can take a look at that. Another 325. So again, running comps is not about finding a perfect number. It's a matter of making sure you're able to draw a line and say, look, your property is similar to these properties, but these properties sold in rehab condition. Yours is not. So let's take that line back a little bit, right? That's running comps for you. So make sure you are looking at the photos of these comps. Make sure, you know, they've been rehabbed. But even like this, like, even though this property looks kind of like it needs some love.
Yeah, that's a rental property right there all
Right.
day.
This property could look much better than your subject property, right?
It could.
And if your subject property is worse than this property, and this property sold for 176, should you be buying your subject property for more than 176? No.
Right.
That's drawing the line. It's to be able to say, Mr. Homeowner, I get you want $280,000, but there was a house that sold for 176. Here's what it looks like. I can't give you 210 because this house is in much better condition than yours. So again, a matter of drawing the line. But once you find your 4 or more comps, is usually what we advise, 4 or more, because it's a matter of making sure they can't question you. So the more
I like
points
to look
that you have, the better.
For minimum. Sometimes I'll look at 5 or 6. And Burton, this is a really great tool to actually show the seller, right? So I often bring my laptop with me when I'm out running appointments, and I like to position the whole, sit down at the table and, talk about the numbers and be as transparent as I can, right? Whenever I'm dealing with a motivated seller or just any property owner. And basically what I like to do is I like to reframe it, right? This isn't me versus you, Mr. or Mrs. Seller. Change your mindset, guys. Instead, think of it this way. This is me and you, Mr. or Mrs. Seller. This is me and you versus the market. So let's look at this together. And we're going to go and we're going to run these different comps, and we're going to do exactly like Burton said. We're going to kind of draw the line on where do we think it is together. And then we're going to add in the discount, and we're going to validate and justify that discount by saying that we're investors. We do this for a profit, and we want to be able to build in a profit, right? And also the cost of selling a property is about 9 or 10%. So a 20 to 30% discount isn't crazy. Justify it. Right? Your offer is going to be low. It should be low. If it's not low, you're leaving money on the table. But it doesn't have to be low and unfair. It can be low and fair. So your job is to prove to the seller or justify that offer as being fair. This is how you do it. So change the mindset. It's me and you, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, versus the market. Here is the market. This is the market. So we're going to go through, we're going to look, and we're going to see what the numbers are. We're going to use like properties that are super close to where we are and they have sold in the last 6 months or a year. And we're not going to look at properties 3 miles away, and we're not going to look at properties that are 4 stories whenever ours is a ranch. We're going to find the likest kind, and then we're going to come up with that number. Then you discount it. Then you walk the property if you haven't already, and you say, don't you agree that the repairs are probably going to be around this number? And here's the thing about repairs, Burton. Holy cow, man. The repairs have gone up like crazy with the cost of materials and just labor in general going up. So, what we used to estimate as $30 a foot for a middle of the line, rehab is now 40. And a really nice rehab is probably closer to $50 or $55 a foot. It's just because of the materials are so more. So knowing your numbers, man, I can't stress this enough. Know those numbers, guys. Unbelievable. All right, Burton, I'm sure you got 1 or 2 more things that you can show us here.
Yeah, actually,
to help us know these numbers. So obviously, all of the comping tools, the comparables, the flip comps, the neighbors, the cash buyers, so valuable. I didn't even know about the flip comps or the neighbors. Again, just thought that was just tiles that were like giving me analytical data, not that I could actually click on those. That's amazing.
And one thing too that we did add as a kind of a final thing is once you've selected the right comps, again, similar comps, similar characteristics, recent sold within a very close vicinity, you can finally hit actions here at the top right and hit view comps report. Right. So what this does is it selects the comps that have been selected. So you got to get as much as possible. Again, we like to say 3 or more, 4 or more, the more the merrier. But once you filter your comps and check off the ones that you want, followed by printing out that report, we're going to take that comps information, so the properties, their sell amount, the pictures, and put it on this file right here, this PDF report you can take with you when you're talking to the homeowner. So let me kind of show you exactly what the conversation would be. Hey, Violet, thanks for letting me come by today to do a checkup on your property. Can you do me a favor, Violet? Can you just check to see if this is your property's characteristics? She's going to double check that. Yep, that's exactly my
Hey, that's
characteristics.
my property. Right.
Well, great. I want to show you that we ran comps last night using the exact near same criteria as your property. And here's what we discovered. In your area, we saw a property sell for as low as 137, and she's going to give you a sour look. And then we're gonna show you that we sold there was a property sold for 325, and she's gonna have her eyebrows raised, and she's probably gonna start circling that with her finger.
Yeah, hey, I want that number. I want that number.
Exactly, right. But then you're gonna say, you know what? On average, it looks like everybody's about 257.33. Here are their characteristics. So she's gonna see that this one has 2-bathroom, and she just confirmed hers wasn't a 2-bathroom. So she's now in her head knowing that she's not gonna get 325, and I didn't even have to say anything. Now, she's still going to probably anchor herself on that higher end. So what we're going to say is, here's where your house is. Here's where those houses are. And just to make matters even worse for the user, not the worst, but just to make sure that they can't really be too stubborn, we're going to include the photos of each one of those comps as well, plus the interior. So that way they can't say, I want full price when their house is falling apart.
Yeah, it's like, hey, these other ones, right.
This is drawing the line. Hey, that 320 you wanted, well, that's what it looks like. Line drawn. I can't give you that. Your house is nowhere near that. That's going to take about $80,000 to do. Plus, I got to pay my employees, plus the contractors, et cetera, et cetera. That's why we provide you that average. And I like that average because, as you can see, that's technically your ARV. Now you can pull out your calculator, run your 70% on there, minus your rehab, minus your, profit margins and so forth. So at that point, 0.7 minus, let's say the rehab is going to take, $35,000. You probably want to make, $15,000 on this, right? That's your MAO. You never start at the top dollar. So you're going to start $10,000 less. I like to offer you $119,900 cash closing.
Great offer. I didn't even add in my wholesale fee because I'm just typically looking for my own deals. But if I'm wholesaling, you got to add in that wholesale fee too.
Exactly.
I love it.
So that's just how comping works. Drawing the line, using this as, again, leverage. You're on the same team. We're not arguing with them. We're just trying to set reality in where I get you want full price. Yeah, your house deserves to be full price when it's there, right? But for now, it's not. So let me show you what it looks like and what that price is once it's rehabbed. But let's draw that line backwards a little bit.
I love it.
Running comps.
Burton, that was awesome. I love doing these demos because I learn a couple things every time we do them. And anybody watching this right now, hopefully you learned a couple things about knowing your numbers, right? About comping properties, how to do it properly. And obviously the tool that we are using here today is PropStream. Love this software. Down below this video, there's a link where you guys can click and get a 7-day free trial to test it out for yourself. 2 cool things I like about PropStream that we didn't even get to mention here. 3 really. One of them is just the fact that we can pull lists, and we'll do a whole separate training and demo on that in the next week or 2, right? But what I really like is you can do D for D with it too. It has a driving for dollars function. And in order to use that function, you have to use the app. And that's the other thing I like about it, right? So it has a mobile app. So when you're on the fly, you can pull comps. You can get any amount of any property information or data on a property at your fingertips. And it's one of my favorite things is whenever I'm going on an appointment, if we don't have all this prepared, I can pull it up on the fly and I can say, oh man, they haven't paid their taxes in 2 years and it looks like they owe 80 grand. Just those 2 little pieces of information help me a ton because I know there's some sort of motivation now. Well, they haven't paid their taxes. Why? There's a reason there, right? And I know that maybe they will take 80 grand because that's what's owed. I'm not going to go in and offer 110 or 200 if I know they owe 80. I'm going to obviously shoot to be near that number, assuming that that number is a deal, guys. So check it out. Click the link below. 7-day free trial. I've been using it for probably close to 3 years at this point. And it's literally one of my favorite softwares because of all of these tools. Burton, thank you so much, my dude.
Thank you so much for having me. We'll be back, guys, and prepare. Make sure you get your trial started because next time we're going to show you how to find those ninja leads nobody's looking for. All right.
Well, I like that.
I like that. For having us
next Friday or the week after. But Burton, thanks again, guys. Thanks for watching. Check out the tool. Signing off.